All right, that little sound from Zoom means that the meeting has started. Welcome everyone to Neighborhood District 5's September meeting. Quick and very important first announcement. I have been informed that there are now microphones in the ceiling monitoring our every word. This means, one, that as long as you are speaking loudly enough, everyone on Zoom is going to be able to hear you without a mic. So just talk normal so that the room can hear you and Zoom's going to hear you too. However, it also means that if you're having whispered conversations with your neighbor, Zoom will also hear that.
Oh.
Seriously. So if you want to have a whispered conversation with your neighbor, we love neighbors having conversations with each other. Just go take it outside so that Zoom doesn't get to hear all of it too. Now, if you happen to be on Zoom, you can also participate. We're now having comments come through either the Q&A or the raise hand features. So please use the Q&A or raise hand features if you are on Zoom and would like to participate. You are here as well in this meeting and we want to hear from you too. All right, we're going to start off with a couple of planning items. Rachel Breen will introduce them one at a time. We'd love to get through that in a half hour or less so that we can have a good half hour to talk about Franklin Elementary and other Provo school district things, which we'll do after that. And we will go to that point. So Rachel, get us started.
Okay, can everyone hear me okay? Okay, first of all, with our developers, we ask that you be respectful to the planners, and if any developers are here, they're not required to attend our meetings, so we're very thankful that when they do. And this is a great time to ask questions directly to the planners. Some thoughts to consider: what are the potential benefits or potential downsides, and why is this change better than what currently exists? A question we get asked all the time is, can you ask for a development agreement? The answer is no. Residents and city staff cannot ask for a development agreement, but instead you can say, how will you guarantee to address my concerns? And then they might offer one. If you have any questions after the presentation, the slides will be available online, and if you grabbed an agenda, the contact information for the city planners is on the agenda, and so you can talk to them. So for our very first item, this is about signs right here in downtown on Center Street. And to let you know where we're at in the development process, this item has already gone to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission did vote, I think it was 7-0, so 7-0 in favor of this, but it has not been decided by the City Council yet. So it has not had a final decision yet. So we will let Aaron Ardmore present on this. And Aaron, there is a clicker up at the podium for this item.
Thank you. So my name is Aaron Ardmore. I've seen some of you before. I've been working in the planning commission for a while. So this project came about with working with the Downtown Provo Alliance. They had some requests to bring back some marquee signage. So they worked with staff and came up with some proposed language. So this is just to give you a little bit of background on where that history of the marquee signage was and kind of where it wants to go. Just an example there on 241 West Center. The proposal itself is going to limit the standards at first. So we're going to limit it to 3 per block face along Center Street, between 5th West and 2nd East. So we don't get kind of the 1970s too many signs along Center Street. Limiting the size to 100 square feet, that's kind of typically what they had been in most cases. And then just some other kind of typical standards that we have for signs downtown. And then just to show you current examples of kind of the sign type we're talking about. So they're different than the blade signs. You'll see the little kind of 3x3 blade signs that are perpendicular to the building. Those aren't what we're talking about. We're talking about these larger marquee type signs. These are 4 examples that currently exist. And like I said, this will open up the door to have 3 per block for anybody that comes in, applies for a building permit for it. It was, like Rachel said, it was a planning commission recommended for approval. Should be at the city council on the 17th, I believe. Any questions?
Did you say to Second East on
Yeah.
Center Street?
Yeah, kind of the historic section of Center Street from Fifth West to Second East.
That's not Second East, that's like
First East.
First East. Is where we have businesses.
Yeah, it goes all the way to Second East.
Okay.
How does this affect the landmarks? Since Center Street is a historic district.
Right, just like any sign permit that comes to us in that section of town, we do have Justin Wright, our historic preservation plan, review it, as well as myself. I typically review the sign permits, so the 2 of us together look at it, and he makes a decision on behalf of the historic commission.
The county of the historic.
Signs typically don't, unless he has some kind of question or concern that he'll bring to you.
So basically, the first 3 that are posing compliant signs will get them, and after that, it's like,
First come, first served at this point.
sorry, you can't do it until someone takes their down.
Yeah, if you see an overwhelming demand, then there's a conversation to be had, but we're gonna start with just 3 per block base.
I just go up to 3.
Spacing, typically, the businesses that wanted them, we looked at what's on the block currently. Like we said, you know, a few down there. At that pizza area. So we try to provide a little bit of flexibility there.
So you go all 3.
I suppose it could go that way.
There's not a rule against it,
Yeah.
but the initial language was for 1 per block face. But there's a specific application for 1 business and there's already 1 on that block face. So it would have to be 2, but there's a 3rd business on that same block that is interested if the door opens. And so we said 3, because there are 3 on 1 specific block face in the downtown that might be interested.
So that was Quinn Peterson with the Downtown Provo Alliance, who we worked with to come up with this standards.
And one of the reasons we wanted to restrict 3, maybe you said this, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
It's just on my board of directors is Gary Winterton, who used to be on the council when the decision was made to make these restrictions. And back in the 60s through the 80s, it was kind of an arms race to see who could have the biggest sign, because if your neighbor had a big sign, yours had to be bigger so you could be seen. And it became total chaos. So for us to start allowing them, we wanted to make sure that there were some restrictions about the number and the square footage and the lights and a few things like that, so it doesn't become chaos. But because it is the historic district, we wanted to allow these types of historic signs in appropriate cases. Yeah.
You know, back to your first slide that showed in the start, like. Yeah, thank you.
I just am curious which block it is. Is it this one?
Yeah, so Thread has an application.
Yeah.
Yep, and then Angel Studios is interested in potentially doing something similar, and Fat Daddy's already has one on that block.
Right.
So that would be the 3. But the other reason we filed is because we did just acquire this property here to build an art house cinema right there.
Oh,
We just closed on that property 3 weeks ago, and we need a sign like this to be allowed, but because we'd already heard applications from Thread and Angel Studios to have this type of sign, we thought, let's just address it for all of downtown. And so that's why we pushed for this.
cool.
Yeah. Yes, yep. So we went to planning commission 2 weeks ago, or last week, and it was approved, and there weren't really any concerns as far as I could gather. And it goes to council next meeting.
Okay. Well, we'll contact me if you're opinion.
I do too. Like parking?
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So this next item that we're going to hear is very early in the application process. So they've just barely applied and they're still in the review process. So what you see tonight might not be what gets presented to the planning commission, because it's still going back and forth between the developer and the city. But we'll pass that on to city planner Mary Barnes.
Good. So this, like Rachel said, this is a really early application. We only just sent him his first round of reviews yesterday. So the concept plan you're gonna see is not the final, concept plan. The next District 5 meeting is in November. We did not want to make him wait that long, right? So that's why he's here today. But this is definitely gonna go for planning commission, so you can definitely come to that and look at that concept plan. So just to go over it quickly, this is 577 east, 400 south. I just put, that's the older zone, there's 300 south, just to orient a little bit. He's asking for this property to go from R16, which is single family, to LDR, which is called low density residential, specifically to allow two townhomes in the backyard. So that's his plan. Right now, this concept plan doesn't have proper parking areas shown. That's one of the big comments we gave him in his corrections that we sent yesterday. He needs to have much more parking, better access, landscaping, like things like that. So it is going to look good by the end of all of this, but right now it's not quite there yet, but it will be. I think that's most of what I wanted to say about this. Any questions? Yes.
What does the neighborhood plan say for this block?
Yeah, so it says single family residential. In the Provo City Code, townhomes are classified as single family attached residential. So it's kind of the same thing. You can see, actually, just for some trivia, just right here, this neighbor did something similar with detached housing in the backyard, just across that little alleyway. So he'll be doing something similar, but with attached housing. Any questions? Any other questions? Yes.
Will there be a space of gathering?
Yeah, so
Input, I'd say, to consider a space where people can gather outside.
right, yeah, totally makes sense. So in the code, it requires things like this to have open spaces. So we'll definitely look at that, make sure there's like the correct percentages and all that. I will say a concept plan. So how it kind of works is there's a concept plan, a rezone, and then a project plan. Concept plans are meant for the concept. We want the parking to be very clear on the concepts. That's so important to approving a rezone. But when the project plan comes in, we'll make sure there's all the correct percentages and the building materials are correct and, get really into the nitty gritty. Yeah.
Including parking, could they consider also combining places?
Bike parking, we can look at that. I'm not quite sure what the code says for bike parking in LDR, but these townhomes will have garages, so that, yeah.
The primary access to 400 south or to that access road?
It's gonna have to come up in the concept plan. Code encourages access through alleyways, but obviously 400 south is an improved street and that alleyway is rather small. So that's something we'll just have to try and address with the with engineering and that. Yeah.
Not a question. I love it.
Oh, perfect. Awesome. Okay. Well, anything else? I also have cards if anyone wants to talk about it or call me later. You want a card?
Sorry.
Or, okay, yeah.
Like, what's the proposed timing to this? Like, because I would love to see more of this, like, for more flexibility and like, when did this begin and like, what's the proposed, like, what is the language like to do this thing?
Yeah, so I just talked to him, he's actually sitting in the back today, but he bought the property about 3 years ago and he's just starting now. It will go through city council and whatever the outcome is of that by like end of October, mid to end of it, hopefully. And then we'll start the project And so probably sometime next year when this is all finished. Yep. Any other questions? Yeah.
I guess I have a question and a comment.
Mhm.
My one comment is, I think I just always am concerned about loss of green space and I guess just making sure that it's not concrete paradise, you know?
Uh-huh, yeah.
And just including trees and making sure that we're still getting some of that in there for the neighborhood, but in addition, I guess I'm wondering what, if I can just understand, like, what are so you mentioned the one above, it seems like that lot is bigger than this one. Are there any guidelines on size? How does that?
Definitely, there's this one actually shows in the hatched area, it's the buildable area. They've put on the setbacks, how far away they can get from the home and the side yards and the backyard. So they're only able to build in there, and that's why they have to do the attached townhomes, right? They can't do what the other neighbors did with detached. So they can only build with that, within that area, but we could put parking on the sides. I don't know, we'll figure it out with the code. We're definitely going to be, LDR code requires landscaping, so we'll be looking into that as well, making sure, you know, yards are landscaped. They have a proper backyard, open spaces, all that stuff. But yeah. Mhm. All right. Okay, well, thank you. I'll see you in planning commission.
Okay, and just before we go on, if you live really close to these items, you will receive a postcard. People in the downtown area should have already received a postcard for this other one in the Maeser neighborhood. If you live really close by, you'll receive a postcard telling you the dates and times of the planning commission and city council hearings. And then you can also write to the planning commission at dspublichearings@provo.org, write to the city council at council@provo.org. If this is something you want, if this is something you don't want, you know, they want to hear from everyone in the community. So Daniel, yeah, next item.
Provo schools, please, Terry.
No.
No, Terry, sorry, all you.
Good evening, Jared Seitz from the Provo School District. This is Jason Benson, the principal at Franklin Elementary School. We've shared a graphic with you to help explain some of our resolution for the concerns at the crosswalk up here at 3rd South and 500. Currently, there are 52 students that reside east of 500 West, and just beginning on Tuesday, we began bus service for those 52 students to be able to avoid crossing at that intersection during the period of construction. We've made that commitment through the 8 weeks that the city engineering has told us that would take for them to complete that project. Principal Benson will continue to work with his school community council to review the safe routes to school plan that they do have, and then continue to communicate. One of the challenges that we ran into is as when city engineering would when they would evaluate the number of individuals using the crosswalk in the morning, they were in the single digits. And so for the city to commit to a crossing guard there, that number needs to average 11. And so our desire is to continue, once the construction project is completed, to encourage safe routes so students can walk and cross that intersection. But until then, we've committed to providing bus service for them to avoid the construction in that area.
Yeah. We have members of our school community council here, Brittany and Robin. Robin's gonna be on it this year. We meet and we review the safe walking routes every year. It's part of one of our responsibilities. We send the members out, they look at crosswalks, stop signs, all things like that, because we wanna make sure that our kids, when they walk, can get to school safely. And then we submit that to the state approves it, Jared approves it, and then it's posted. We share that with our emails, hard copies. It is a new system this year. It's a little clunky, so we're still trying to get a little used to that, but we really rely on our parents to be able to help us to make sure that kids can get to school safely. So.
What about the parents that have kids that are literally
petrified experiences or anything else, any other reasons, that are petrified and absolutely refuse to ride the bus? What about parents with kids there on that side that are having problems with the safe crossing?
Yeah, so I know her son really well, great kid, loves fist bumps and all sorts of things like that. So I would say encourage the parents to reach out to us, so that we can come up with an individualized plan, you know, so that we can address.
I'm not the parent, I'm not
Yeah,
speaking on behalf
but please
for
just let us know,
families.
right? I think that if we know the concerns and we can address those, so just tell them to reach out to me, you know, have my number, and then we can talk to them and help them get across.
I
don't
give that a number.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Just something to consider about keeping track of the people who use the crosswalks, just as in the single digits. It's just the intersection right below it on Fourth South, that blue dot's my house, and so I watch everyone go across,
There's a lot. of
right? And there's
people.
double digits every day.
Cross, yeah.
So there is the need, even though that's not being used. So just something to switch.
Yeah, and our school community council will consider that, you know, it's not striped currently, there's no lighting or there's some signage there, but if that's a recommendation that we would then take to the city engineering to consider. These will then think through that.
Yeah, and just so you're aware, we have talked to parents, cause I've been out there watching kids cross, it is really scary. Right, I mean, because especially with the construction right now, but even in the past, sometimes parents are like, hurry and just go, and kids are like, it's like Frogger, I'm old, I remember Frogger.
Yeah.
Back and forth, and so we just want them to get to school safe, and so like Steve was saying, there's concerns, we can work through it.
I know you said, there aren't enough kids crossing, but since construction is happening and it might be too late, doesn't it make sense to do what they've done on Center Street for the kids crossing to the school? And all this, just that little island, you know, because it would probably, this is the time to do it if the road's torn up, you know, to put in that, it would save the city money in the long run, I think.
And
Like,
those are,
is there a way to talk? What's his name? Wonderful.
Back in the bed, you know, I mean,
you know,
There's
our
not- Oh, he's
role,
not here.
our role as a school district though, is to make those
Yeah.
recommendations to Vern.
Gordon, okay.
okay.
But I think now's the time if you can call up to put that little thing in for real.
Actually, UDOT is who you need to
You
talk
got
to.
it? Oh, cause it's the stupid highway, that's one by the state says.
And UDOT is not a friendly.
It's not, oh, dang it.
That's part of the problem
I
we
also-
had, oh, sorry.
Vern has told me that these raised crosswalks are not allowed in city code for
Oh,
any
it's
reason.
not raised.
She's talking about the
It's the
island in the
island
middle.
in the middle, if you
Oh,
go in
median.
center.
Yeah, I mean,
That goes to-
Okay.
Yes,
Oh,
yeah.
I was like, oh, but.
no, not the raised ones, it has to be 25 or under 20. I've talked to him about those too, but yeah, just the little thing in the flashing lights. that
The one
kids
by
got.
Provo Peaks.
There's one by Provo Peaks and one to get to the rec center. You know, before someone gets hit, it would be great to have it there, but we have the, now it's the highway, it's
Yeah.
state, so that's.
And I think those are great, so, like, that's news to me, so I would suggest we work with our school community council. Vern's been great, just so you know, doing
Yeah.
everything that he can, he's trying to address those
For
needs.
sure, yeah.
But like Jared was saying, as a school and school district, our main responsibility are the safe walking routes, and then we work together with the city. UDOT over here is kind of its own unique thing, and it threw a
Yeah.
huge wrinkle into what we're
Yeah,
doing.
yeah.
But I think any suggestions, ideas, we can work together.
And we will
see.
pass them along.
Yeah,
We will
and so
pass them
we,
along. So,
I talk about this all the time, but I'm just curious what went into changing, there used to be crosswalk on Second
two
South
hour.
and Fourth South on Fifth West. So was that a community council decision, a UDOT requirement? I've heard that you can't have it within one block of the light. It just seems like all those people down south have to go all the way up, then across and then back down, whereas on Fourth South, they could just go straight to the school. More people naturally cross there.
Yeah,
And
that's a
then
second-
having a crossing guard will be safer than putting one up on the light, them not using it. I don't know, I know there's lots of rules, but it just doesn't seem like a natural walkway.
I know Principal Benson will take note of these recommendations, the second comment about Fourth South, right? And as they take it to their school community council meetings a week from today, if I'm not mistaken, so. Okay.
Yeah, can I just answer Brent's question? When they redid 300, we were told that we were only gonna get what it was, and so it wasn't a suggestion. Well, they were gonna consolidate and they just let us know that.
David, come back to you.
I was just gonna say, I worked with UDOT, I wanna say it's Region 5, Region 3, I can't remember which it is, when Timpanogos was, well, I guess when Fifth West was rebuilt and we lost the underpass and whatnot, and I found them, I mean, we didn't get everything we wanted, but I found them willing to engage, really listen to us, and came up with a solution that was mostly of what we want. So I wouldn't say like, oh, forget about UDOT, they're not gonna do anything. Like, I would engage with them and it's usually for the best.
So take note of that when I call them this week, say, hey, it was a good experience, let's invite you next week, right? Well, no, we can invite them to school committee.
Even last year, just being here 1 year, my first official year here, even last year before the construction even started, I noticed a lot of families crossing where the book, that free book house thing is. Yeah, a lot of parents cross right there. My sister who came down visiting from Alaska, just even 2 days, she said that was completely unsafe. She made a suggestion of maybe temporarily even putting one of those like flashy light thingies that make cars stop, like when you come for the farmer's market. Maybe temporarily putting one right there for kids to get through.
On 400.
Like right there, like what you would do at the farmer's market, but a light like that, right there.
I don't know the logistics. Becky has a student there as well. And she's
So can I step in for a second?
Yeah.
Even if it's
Okay,
temporary.
so our staff, but this is not even our staff, right? Administration has certain laws they have to follow through UDOT, right? Safe Routes is a UDOT program. And then it comes through school community council, and then we're clear down here on the bottom, okay? So Vern has said very clear, I even talked to him about it yesterday. If, and Rachel has more of the law, if that comes, if whatever route that they decide to do for the school community council, if it comes within so many feet, so many blocks, maybe whatever, by law, that crossing has to be at the light, because there is a light. So even though it does make more sense to put it on Fourth, we cannot have a crossing guard there. It has to be at the light. So, we can't control where parents go. There's just a safe route to school. And if you want to follow the safe route to school, you've got to go to the light and cross. Now, as far as those flashy lights go, those they're super expensive, and you have to have so many pedestrians, and there's no way Fourth South is going to qualify for a hawk light or a light like that. This one's here because we have the farmer's market, and come Saturday, if you guys have ever driven down that street, it is constantly on. There are that many pedestrians crossing that street. So these are great ideas. There's just limitations in what the city can do, right? There's limitations in funding, and then there's limitations in law. So, you have to give these guys kind of a little break. They can bring it up, and then Vern will come back and he'll say, okay, by law, we can't do that.
Was that law changed? Because there used to be one within a block on each side. Was that law changed when they redid the road, or?
Yes, Rachel's saying, yes, that law was changed.
That's a recent change. This is it right up here on this slide.
And that was
It's
a
the
state
latest
law?
edition.
State law.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Thanks, everyone. We encourage you to reach out if you are students at Franklin, reach out to Principal Benson or members of the school community council, share your insights. We'll be happy to then share that with UDOT as well as with the city, and we'll do everything. Thanks.
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody, parents for being here. Carrie, Becky, you have a question? Sorry.
Kind of related, you said on average you need 11 people in the morning for a crossing guard, and a crossing guard, is that provided by the city, and is that like a paid?
Yes,
It's
it's a
paid.
paid position.
Does this, my son is to a charter school, and I know they don't have to be in compliance with having a safe route plan, but if they wanted
to create, to still do it, would they still have access to those resources?
Can't speak to that.
Don't know, that would be
I
a city
don't know the
question.
answer, but- City.
And I would say that, and this is just my understanding, that the funding's tied to the kids crossing, not necessarily to the safe funding. Is that right? I mean, cause I'm not sure. But, so we're gonna encourage parents to get more kids to walk care out.
I first want to thank like everyone who's been involved in this process. I feel like my son's been riding the bus this week and that's been a
Good to
big,
see my son today.
yeah, it's been a big relief to me because I've like get him to school safely now, or before when I had to walk him to the construction zone. Like I have a 2-year-old with me too, and I'm like, it's nothing. But I also want to speak to, I contacted UDOT personally, and I feel like they were very easy to work with. That was when we had this meeting that's mentioned here on the slide on 29th. I saw UDOT out there with Vern, and that's when they actually cleared a lot of the like trash that was even on the sidewalk, I think, yeah, stuff like that. And speaking to the crossing guard, my son's in second grade now at Franklin, and I feel like the whole time we lived there, they'll put a crossing guard. At third, not enough kids cross, and so it gets taken away pretty recently, like usually around fall break, they'll remove the crossing guard. So other parents I've talked, I've never been informed personally that they were moving it. So I think a lot of parents who live in our neighborhood feel it's not, there hasn't been consistent, safe way to cross this, and so most of them opt to drive. Even now the bus is there, I think a lot of people are still, that's in their mind, like it's only a temporary thing, and so we're just gonna continue to drive. My understanding of safe routes is to encourage walking, if I'm correct. And bike riding, and so I feel like we're stuck in this like perpetual dysfunctional cycle. They put the crossing guard there, not enough kids cross in that short time frame, so it's taken away, and then people just have gotten into this pattern of driving. So that's the only comment I wanted to make, but also just say I'm grateful that we've been able to get the bus and that solution is there and available, so thank you.
And I would agree with that, and I think school community council, everybody, you're all invited. It's a tiny room though, so it'll be a warm, but let's talk about that and say, how do we help change that mindset so that our kids are safe and so we.
Potential collaboration, and I don't know what it looks like for you all to collaborate, but I do know several neighborhoods here in Provo have safe ways for bikes to cross in between, and kind of Franklin and this downtown neighborhood don't really have a safe bike crossing there. And so anyways, if you have any interest, because this crosswalk up here, I mean, it's okay, obviously someone died and got hit by a car up there, but what is it, 200, 300 north on 500 west, and it's obviously more protected than your average intersection, but I don't know if it doesn't, because it is an intersection, so I don't know, you know, obviously what the rules are, but that might be an organization that could be interested in promoting that.
Thanks, you guys. Thanks.
Okay, and just real quick, this is a statement from the Provo Police saying that there will be a crossing guard at 300 South for this entire school year, just not at this time. We just want to make sure. So are the Provo City Traffic Manager, and make sure I'm correct in this. So right now, because of the buses, that crosswalk is gone. I think he said he's bagged they're bagged. They're not there anymore. So it's not the crosswalk, but that's just the temporary, them taking it away. And that should be restored by November 1st. And I did call UDOT and they said it should be restored by November 1st on that. And he did say that later, I'm not sure exactly when, he's gonna do another count of people walking. So if you want a crossing guard on 300 South, I don't know, maybe we can ask Vern when he's doing his count. I don't know if it's a secret count. But just to make sure that people continue to use that, because if no one's using it, they're not gonna have a crossing guard. But yeah, big thank you to
Thanks, everybody.
everyone,
Appreciate it.
especially the residents for bringing this to our attention.
Thank you. Thank you. This is how neighborhood programs are supposed to work.
We have a couple of quick updates. We'll first hear from Terry McCabe on our school board, and then Rachel Breen has a couple of items for us.
Now it's my turn. Don't worry. So for those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Terry McCabe from the school board. I wanted to let you know that this year's theme for the school district is cultivating magic. Part of our improvement plan is to become a destination school district, so people will want to come to Provo and have their kids educated in Provo. And that's what we're working on, along with the strategic plan. I'm gonna skip down to the strategic plan. We're just about done with it. And if you want to see what the brochure is gonna look like, it's in board docs on our website. And you can see the latest draft on there. And the next thing is the cell phone policy committee. If you haven't heard in the news, schools and school districts across the country are creating cell phone policies which restricts students' access to their cell phones so that they're more focused in class and paying attention and learning. And the superintendent wants to create a committee to decide what our whole school district's policy is going to be. And for those of you who've had middle school students, you already know that Centennial and Dixon and Shoreline already have a cell phone policy. And so now we're creating a policy for the whole district. So if you want to be on that committee, let me know, or let the superintendent know, or let your principal know that you want to be on the committee, and you can help out. Okay, and then we just approved who the company is that's gonna help us with the boundary study. For those of you who live in the Franklin South neighborhood, your boundaries for elementary schools is screwed up. I'm so sorry. And the last time boundary changes were done was, we've heard of 2006, so we're working on 20 years now. It's been a very long time, very long time. So we're doing everything, elementary, middle school, high school. We're gonna study everything, the DLI programs, the CAS programs, which is, for those of you who don't know, that's the Gifted and Talent program. We're gonna study everything. And so we just approved the company who is going to help us with that. And what the next step is, I don't know. We'll find out at the next board meeting. And but I want you guys, you're aware that it's gonna happen so that you're not all shocked. Oh, my kid's supposed to go to a different elementary school? No, we don't, none of that. None of that craziness that happens in Alpine, sorry. And then if you didn't know, on your ballot, you're gonna see in November, there's gonna be 4 constitutional amendments. 2 of them have to do with education. The first one, Amendment A, says that the state legislature wants to get rid of the earmark for income tax that pays just for education. And that was started by the state legislature in 1931. So it's almost, we're working on 90 years now.
Let's keep it.
Yeah, so Utah PCA has come out against it. UEA has come out against it. I personally am against. I'm encouraging people to vote no on this. But that's what Amendment A is. And then Amendment B, that is about trust lands. And if you've never heard of trust lands, let me explain. All the public land that the state of Utah owns, all the profit they get from that, like if someone needs to rent the land to do something, all the money they get from that, they put it into a trust land and then they give it out to all the schools. And so when Principal Benson was here, he was talking about community council. The community council decides what they're gonna do with the trust lands money for Franklin Elementary School. So this goes directly to each individual school. It does not go to the district. So that's one of the purposes of community council, is to decide what to do with the money for trust lands and safe routes to school. And So this constitutional amendment wants to increase the amount of money from the profits from 4% to 5%. So this is a good thing. We're encouraging people to vote yes. Specifically, Provo School District will get, for email the calculation, we will get almost $300,000 more for the whole school district if you vote A. Okay. Yes. Okay, any questions? Yes.
I know I'm grossly uninformed, but it seems so obvious for Amendment A to keep funding. What's the argument to take an income tax earmark away?
So what the state legislature wants to do to take that away, they feel like they can balance the state budget better.
Yeah, not for kids.
What's happening in Dixon?
Dixon, we haven't decided yet. But we kind of narrowed the decision down to possibly a CTE school. But that also depends on the boundary study. We're not gonna make any final decisions on that until that's done. But they're like, I don't know if you guys have heard of MTech. Yeah, so some of the classes that are MTech are full before Provo students can even do, apply to do those classes. And then some of them are full down in Spanish Fork or they're full in Lehigh, but they don't have access to the ones here in Provo. So they have to drive. So by having it here at Dixon, I think in the past, maybe Dave can tell us, UDOT has said that they're gonna put UVX down 500 West, and that would make it much easier for students to get to Dixon if it's a CTE class. For those of you who haven't heard of the CAPS program, they're housed at what should we call it on Center Street?
New Skin.
New Skin. But that's not guaranteed they can stay there forever, so we could move CAPS over to Dixon. And there's a whole bunch of other classes that we don't have access to that we would like to, and if we put them at Dixon, it would just make it a lot easier for our students. Yeah.
What's the CAPS program?
It's basically kids work for a business.
Okay.
For a class.
Yeah.
And they get credit for it and they get to do some really cool things. They've worked, yeah, you've worked for a business that has used the CAPS kits and share it with everybody. Yeah.
I heard that Provo wanted to participate in a BRT on 500 West, but Orem had to agree and they asked that. Is there some different information?
I don't know about that. You would have to ask somebody who would know that information, and I'm not.
That's what you mentioned, right? But like a BRT like UVX.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. Yeah.
I don't know if you can speak to this, Terry. I was listening to Superintendent Dow's podcast from last week, and she mentioned something about armed guardians. in the school.
Yes.
Can you give me more information about
Yes.
that? I didn't know that about that.
Yeah, so in this last legislative session, HB 84 was passed. Most of the bill has some really great things in it. It has secure vestibules. It has, you know, all these great things to make schools secure. However, there's one thing in the bill called armed guardians. And it came from a pet project from a park. I hate saying that, PPP all the time. But yeah, the problem is that there was an armed guardian at Parkland and kids still died. Having an armed guardian, I mean, this is just my opinion, is not the way to go. Having all the other things, if you've had to go into your kid's school right now, you've had to go through the secure vestibules, which they didn't used to have. You had to scan your driver's license into, right? There's all these other things that do make schools secure. And if you haven't heard, a year ago, there was a shooting at a school in Nashville, Tennessee, and the shooter went to a school and couldn't get in. So we left and went to another school and was able to get in, and we did kill some children. But we want to be that first school, that the shooter can't even get into the building, the kids are safe. So that's what we want to do. We want to make the building safe so that they can't. And armed guardians don't necessarily. Now, there's requirements for it. It cannot be a principal, it cannot be a teacher. It could be anybody else. They are given a $500 stipend to pay for their gun. And that means that the gun has to be on school property, there has to be bullets, you have to be comfortable shooting a child. And there is requirement of a psychological evaluation, but currently there's only 4 people in the whole state that are licensed to do that evaluation. So there's a huge backlog. And those 4 people aren't just doing the armed guardians, they're doing all the police officers, they're doing everybody in the whole state.
And a key part is they're not funding it, they're expecting schools to fund it.
Yeah, so basically, we would have to take away teachers to fund this. Because the bill only is providing $500. Now, if you guys don't know what a business administrator is, they're basically in charge of all the money in a school district. So the head business administrator for the whole state, he calculated that to fund this for every single school in the state of Utah, it would be $500 million. $500 million. So $500 million to fund armed guardians.
What is the best way to make a coalition to get this removed? Because parents aren't liking it, the school's not liking it, like, I haven't found anyone yet who said that this is the best way forward.
State legislature.
I guess
Very dangerous, out of control.
I guess my question is, how do we politely
Say you don't
harass them to listen to us, like in a way that is
How-
actually effective? Like,
Tell our Provo legislators that you don't like it.
Okay.
And I will tell you,
Oh, yeah, Norm. Oh, sorry.
I'll tell you
So
that
much
do
for
not
you.
go through the bill sponsor. His name's Representative Brian Wilcox. He lives up in Weber County. He is so for this. He refuses to even discuss removing armed guardians at all. So if you could talk to your legislators, now there's Norm Thurston, Tyler Clancy, Marcia Judkins is on her way out, but she's gonna be replaced by Lisa Shepherd, who lives on the west side. And then there's up in the northwest corner, Kevin Stratton's being replaced by somebody I can't remember. Yeah.
Can we switch this, but with the next legislation section, we have enough power to do that?
Yeah,
Okay.
if you talk to your legislators. Now, I'm on the legislative committee for the school districts, and we are coming up with some talking points, and we're gonna share that with the school district PTA, and then they're gonna share it with everybody. So that we'll share it far and wide with everybody with all the talking points. So you can then tailor it to an email to your legislator. But if you go and tell all your neighbors and tell everybody else, you don't want this, eventually that little section of the bill can hopefully be removed. Yeah.
I did want to say at our last big district PTA meeting, we talked about kind of organizing and collaborating between PTAs and the school district to get like, what's it called, when everybody signs and like a petition or like some kind of statement with signatures or
Yeah.
something.
Could we
So maybe we could
design a
collaborate.
sign that we all put up, like, if we can like plaster Provo with signs about it? Like people do about other issues, like about don't pave Utah Lake, maybe we could start making a sign that's, no, how would you say it in social media?
Yeah, you can share it on Provo Forward or all the other
I had
groups.
to go off Facebook, it made me too sick, all the Provo stuff.
Well, tell your neighbors then and tell everybody else. Yeah, and then just email your legislators, tell them you don't want it, tell our senators, Senator Grover, who's on the west side. Mike McCall, who's out of Spanish Fork, but the south end of town. And then, Kurt Bramble's leaving and his replacement will be decided on November 5th, so.
Come on, District 5.
Yeah.
So much.
Any other questions? Yes,
Sorry, I want to go back to Dixon.
go.
Sorry to take it away from this important topic, but so in the meantime, before something else happens there, what is happening there? How is Dixon being used? Yeah.
It's still being used for adult ed for night, usually it's English classes. And then, Boys and Girls Club are using it after school, but they're only using parts of the building. The parts that are unsafe are blocked off and kids and people are not allowed in it. But there are safe sections of the building that they are using. And so until we decide what to do, those two entities are using the building.
And they're busing the kids over from shorelines.
I don't know, you'd have to ask the Boys and Girls Club what they're doing. Any other questions? Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Rachel, updates on Fresh Market and improvements in Joaquin.
Yes, so we have District 5 got a matching grant to improve the park strip right there by Fresh Market. It was just asphalt and dead trees. So we've been working hard on it, but we need your help. So on Saturday, September 7th, that's this Saturday, if you can come down at about 9 o'clock, right before the farmer's market, just swing by Fresh Market. We need help spreading mulch. So that's this Saturday at 9. And then next week, they're going to start planting in there and they have professionals doing that. And then the Saturday after that, September 4th, we're gonna need help again spreading bark at the same time, 9 o'clock. So if you're fans of the farmer's market, just come down at 9, help us spread, and then head over to the farmer's market. We would love to get volunteers. I've reached out to BYU, but they just barely started school, so I'm not sure if their community cleanup is up and going yet. Michael, do you know any on that?
I'm Eric. But,
Oh, Eric, sorry.
I don't know if their community cleanup is up and going, but I think that their service learning stuff is up and going, and I can pass this on and see who can get there. But you said the dates are this Saturday, and then you said.
And then the next Saturday, so the 7th and the 14th. Right, and that's, we're gonna need help right at 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
So awesome. And just so you know, we did work with the city forester, and the city forester Chaz Addis got us a grant from the Forest Service, so that's paying for our trees. Oh, yeah, Chaz. And so the remaining matching grant funds are going towards the cost of the mulch, fertilizer, compost, timers for the drip system, all of that. But we're hoping to have a beautiful gateway to downtown instead of the ugly ass. Okay. Thank you very much. And hopefully we'll see you on Saturday. And I'm telling everyone to bring their own rake, because I'm not sure if we're going to have rakes. I'll try to reach out to Parks to see if they have some. And then some other updates on pedestrian safety. This is 500 North and 400 East. So they got, the city got community development block grant funds. That's the CDBG funds. And the engineering will draft a design by the end of this year or early next year. So yay. So safety improvements include bulb outs, ADA ramps, striping, better lighting, upgrade the existing infrastructure from the deep curbs and gutters to the current standard. Upgrade the sidewalk from 4 feet to 6 feet. And any other safety improvements as needed, so yay, we're super excited about that. We've been asking for that for a long time. And then people keep asking about safety improvements on 800 North. So this is what has been done. So this is 800 North from 700 East to University Avenue. They've converted the mid-block crosswalks to high visibility with new paint. They have bike pedestrian signs put up. They replaced all the crosswalk signs with the reflectivity signs for seeing better in the dark. They've trimmed the trees. They have the continuous flashing yellow lights at all 5 mid-block crosswalks, so 10 total. They've got the flashing red lights in all 10 stop signs. They've installed used crosswalk signs in front of Slab Pizza on both sides of 800 North. They did a street lamp study to improve the lighting. They've installed 2 new street lamps to improve the lighting. And they are currently working with BYU to improve the intersection at 800 North, 500 East. And so depending on their conversations with BYU, they're not quite sure what's gonna happen yet on that. Eric, do you have anything on that?
For in case there's been a hero on this. You know, you saw it right through to the end and it's been really great to work with. And it's working with facilities and risk management. Right.
The lighting, the new street lamps are great, and there's more than 2, I think.
Oh, is there?
I think so.
Oh,
But
great.
There's still one missing at the duck pond, the darkest place ever.
Oh, okay.
That's good.
And so I was hoping he'd be here. Well, I walked down the street when they were installing those lamps and asked the workers, and they said, well, that belongs to BYU. But every parkway is owned by the city, is it
Yeah,
not?
it's on the sidewalk. I think they've had discussions about that. The other thing that BYU is doing is risk management's doing is a safety, like an education campaign to get students to look up from their phones when they cross the street.
No, but I
We sound
watched
a
them.
little-
There's not that many doing that. That's not the problem.
Yeah.
The problem is there needs to be student activated stoplights. And that's only safe, the way that street's ever gonna be safe enough. Because I watch those kids every day. I've been watching their misses and I almost myself. I student was over here. Yeah, it's just, but the lights have been great. I mean, the street lamps. Yeah, we really need to go on the stoplights. And so BYU is not invested in doing anything.
Oh, they're very invested.
Yeah.
That's why they're
Yeah.
continuing to do all this stuff.
Okay.
And that's why Eric's here. He's been a big help.
Well, I know he has, yeah.
I'll talk to Vern though about your concern.
The city council, when I made my presentation and then asked, if there anything for next year, no. I know there's lots of demands and the little kids crosswalks are really important. That is too, because it's just
No. You've been really great.
people are petrified.
Yeah, you've been great at bringing this to people's
Yeah,
attention.
so-
and I think you've gotten some response. and I
So
think
I don't know, we just need to stay on it, I guess, for the next budget.
Rachel?
Yep, that's
Yeah.
it.
All right. We're doing great. We're ahead of schedule, guys. All right, is Mark Peterson here?
Him. So Mark Peterson, if you go to the farmer's market, you might see him. He has a chess set up. And he is getting a petition to get these cute little cement permanent chess sets. His first choice is Pioneer Park. And so what he would love to do is to use a matching grant to get 1 or 2 of these set up in a park. I think they cost about $2,700. He also was interested in setting some up in Provo North Park, and so he presented this to District 4. They were super excited about it, having it at Provo North Park. He's gotten quite a few signatures at Pioneer Park for people who want it. Unfortunately, I reached out to Parks, and what they said is they feel like there's not a need for it. They said that Pioneer and North Parks are both very busy locations. and that it would be challenging to decide on a permanent location. They welcome chess players in the parks and encourage them to bring their own chess sets. So I reached out to Parks again to see, is it just Pioneer and North Park you don't want these at? Or are other parks okay? And they never got back to me on that. This is their busy time of year, so. So I don't know if this is something that the residents or the District 5 board want to pursue as a matching grant project. It seemed, I mean, it would be the cost of the chess set, and then they would probably have to do a cement slab to install it into and find a park that we like. But if that's something that you'd like to at least try to get, I can talk to Mark Peterson to have him fill out an application. David?
I love the idea. I love these kind of community gathering. I love these kind of things in our parks. So I'm generally like, it seems like a great thing. You know, why are the parks, you know, taking this more seriously? But I do think it is helpful to kind of try to look at it from their perspective. So that's what I did. Like, that was a legitimate question. Like, why aren't they, you know, why aren't they, you know, why are they pulled on this idea? And it kind of dawned on me, I don't imagine the proposal is to actually have chess pieces or the checkers there. And so anyone who's going to play is going to have to bring their own. And if they're bringing their own, you know, it's that much harder to bring a board with the pieces and then use one of the tables under there. That way, you know, it doesn't become a hazard, but, you know, something you have to mow around, and you know, wherever you put it, that's now a place that other people who want to do other things that do. So it just seems to me that while it's really cute and I love the idea, but if people have to bring their own anyway, I mean, they're bringing 85% of what they need to play, you know, to bring the last 15%, and use the tables that are already there. Anyway, so that just came, just an idea or a thought that I had, maybe why they're cool on the idea, and so. Or they can.
They're probably looking at it as it's one more thing we have to take care of.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Counselor Bogdan?
I was gonna say, you know, in the last month, they've been hit up by the tennis people, they've been hit up by the softball parents, they've been hit up. Just everybody wants what they want in their parks. And it comes to a point where they've only got so many limited resources. And it's like they said, what they have to do is they have to say, okay, is this gonna be really utilized, or, you know, and so in their defense, they are getting hit up all over.
We're doing so much. Are we talking about just regular chess, or are we talking about like those big weights, like the pieces that are, okay, I should have looked at the picture.
Just at my college town my son goes to, they have them as big round tables with round all around it, so you can come to eat and you can come to sit and have a picnic. So maybe if they could make things that were double duty, then they'd be more open to such an idea, and it could be like, cause they had like 4 or 5 and someone's always sitting there, not usually playing chess. But I was thankful to eat my donuts from Creme Bakery there, you know, and things like that. So if it was like a multi-use thing, maybe. I think that's what they're coming back to you guys for. Is that what you guys want to spend your money for? And well, once you guys are invested in something like that, is that something that parks will sign off?
Right. What's the best avenue then to like support an initiative like this? We reach out to Parks and say, I support an initiative that would bring.
No, because I mean, you're one person, right? And they've gotten this from, they're getting a petition from. So if you want to go that route, send their petition.
Okay.
But at the same time, I think what Rachel's trying to bring up is this something that you guys want to do for your grant? And if it is, will that show parks that this is something that's good for this park? Because I feel like it's more placemaking, and like a placemaking art sculpture. I'd prefer it over the water sculpture outside, you know, like things like that. Those are all points to bring up when you guys fill out the application, right? Okay.
Okay, I'll tell him to start going on the application, and you can, he's always at the farmer's market playing chess. with a petition for people to sign if that's something you're interested in. Awesome, thank you.
We actually do have enough time to move on to the next item. Which, did you want to talk about this first and then?
I forgot about just regular open comment, sorry.
Okay.
Anyone else, sorry. I jumped in.
All right, concerns, complaints, David.
Could we do the election for district secretary first and then what, could we reorder the agenda?
Is there a second to the motion to move ahead? All right, all in favor of moving forward to the election of the district secretary, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Yes,
Okay,
I would like to do public comment.
But we're gonna do it.
we'll do both, we're just doing the election first.
I see.
Both will happen, I
Great,
promise.
great.
Okay, all right, okay. As you may know, we do not at the moment have a secretary for District 5. Our previous secretary moved out of state, and so the position is now vacant. So we would love to have a secretary for District 5, but one thing about this is that it's only till the end of the year, so it's not nearly as much of a commitment as usual. So, would anybody like to stand for election to secretary?
So we do have that the secretary has to be a member of the board.
Okay.
Which limits,
Oh,
here's our chess. We're just discussing your chess proposal.
oh, I wasn't down to 7:20, I'm sorry.
We are going much faster in the agenda than we thought. But just to recap, you guys like the idea and he can go forward with filling out an application depending on parks agreeing to it. But the district, right, likes the idea of the matching grant funds being used.
Do we need to decide which part?
I mean, I know that your first choice is
5, so
Pioneer.
I think it would have to be a park in our district.
But yeah, if for some reason Pioneer's a no, then yeah, we would need to decide on a different.
They wanted to adapt ours so that it would be, or adapt the table so it'd be something multifunctional.
Yeah,
I mean, anybody can sit at the table, even if they're not playing chess.
so, yeah, just some background on that. The table itself without the chairs is about $2,600. It's solid concrete and has a 50-year lifespan. $2,600, it's a pretty solid, sturdy investment.
How much are the chairs?
They're optional, they're about $600 to $700 for two.
How much are like this where more people can?
No, the reason I stopped looking at that one because that one fits within the $7,500 grant where potentially you could buy two and still have money left over for the installation. I have looked at other ones, they're a little more pricey usually. But you know, if you want chairs all around, you can buy more than two chairs. Yeah, they look good. With my favorite park is Pioneer Park because of the farmers market and foot traffic and central location. But, yeah, and did you bring up the opposition for parks and
Right. But we can always still try.
Right.
We might as well try to see.
personally, the reasoning that's been expressed to me is that they say the parks are too busy. That just sounds like a reason you want to have it there. Saying that the parks are too busy was almost like saying these tables are so big they're going to impede the flow of traffic. I don't believe that's true. I don't know. I don't want to say that their reasoning is wrong, but it doesn't sound convincing to me. You know, the tables that size and the parks across the street here, there's more than enough room and a green space without getting in people's way. We're not talking about more than a couple on the $7,500 grant. So I just personally, I don't find their reasoning very convincing.
Do you have a specific place in Pioneer Park that you would like it to be?
So I don't know if you've seen me, if any of you been to the farmers market the last few weeks, I've just been coming with chessboards and setting them up and playing who wants to play instead of a gauge of the interest. A couple of places that has been suggested to me, we've spoken to people. On the north side of the splash pad, there are two picnic tables there. That'd be great. The only thing I think though is that people, they probably want to have tables there so people can watch their kids. So I don't know if that's the best spot overall. Another good spot would be on either end of the pavilion, where there's still a little tree cover and shelter.
Yeah.
A couple of weeks back, actually, we were playing in the middle of a thunderstorm. Everyone kind of, it started raining, people crowded at the pavilion. We had 3 games going at once. It was kind of cool. So somewhere around that pavilion, but I'm open to suggestions. I mean, the park is pretty good.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate here. I mean, let's say that a parent finds that appetizing to sit there while their kids are running back and forth, keeping them outside, and somebody wants to do like that. You know, maybe that's one reason that they're losing out, is it's just too busy. To actually go out there and actually play this, or they might actually have their McDonald's in this spread there with their little kids.
Yeah,
And they come to play chess and so then they're not functioning as they're supposed to.
Well, they're functioning at the table. That can also.
They are functioning as
Yeah,
teachers,
so-
so someone that comes to play chess.
Well, as someone that uses a handicap restroom when I have my kids with me, like, I don't find that problematic, even though
Somebody comes.
which is great. And if that's the case, then they obviously get the right of way. I don't think that that's like impolite or improper even. Say, oh, hey, like, I brought my chess stuff, like, could you move your kids to another table? And I'm pretty sure most people would be really quite amenable if they know that they're at a chess table. Like, as opposed to just a standard picnic table. That's very different.
And to answer your question, I think it's the same problem you have with any shared resource. You know, you can go to the park to use the swings, all the swings have been used. It's not something that people can't find a way around.
So then put that in your arguments. Have that.
I know what go back down.
So just, you know, I mentioned my thoughts on this earlier. Yeah. I think there's enough support here. I think it would make sense to put together a proposal. But I think before like district, we as a district, neighborhood district, like decides like, yes, this is one we want to do. I think it might be worth brainstorming and seeing if there's other projects that we would want to spend this money on. And if we had a couple, 2, 3 proposals, competing proposals and say like, so this is what we think would be of the most value, you know, and go forward with that. And most likely, based on our past performance, most likely we won't have another idea and we might as well move forward with this one. But if there, I think it would be good to brainstorm, like, is there a better use for the $5,000, $6,000, $7,000? So that would be my
Like
suggestion.
lights at the duck pond.
Yes.
Whatever that is. Yeah, some-
And comment to the back.
Along those same lines, what is the timeline of preparing applications for the matching grant? So we could, as a community, brainstorm other ideas to bring to the table along with this one and then decide what would be the best, like, what does the community want those funds to try to get used for?
Rachel has the answer to that.
So the deadline is March 30th for the matching grant applications. So you can, like, anyone can apply for a matching grant. You don't have to be a board member. You can be a regular resident, and I'll send Mark the application. So like for example, District 4 had 6 matching grant applications. And then what they did is they presented them in a meeting and they voted on which ones they wanted. One of them fell through, so then they did like a second choice on it. But it's quite normal to have more than one application. And then the board makes the final decision on which one they're going to pursue. And those other ones, just hang on to them till next year, because it starts again July 1st. So right now is the time when you get in your service hours, because that's how we get the grants, is service hours. and to get your ideas and to fill out the applications. And part of the application process is getting the okay from the property owner, in this case, Parks. But yeah, so the end of March.
And then once the board decides on which project they want to move forward, is it the city council who approves, yes or no?
No, it's the board.
It's just the board.
It's just the neighborhood board.
Okay, and then
And then, so they approve it and then it goes to, there's a final approval by the council director. He makes the final say on that.
And then when you're saying about getting service hours now, does that determine how much funding can be used next year?
Correct.
And what, could you maybe on the follow-up to today's meeting include like, how can we as a neighborhood district make sure we get those hours so we can qualify for max funding for next year?
Definitely, yeah. To get the max 7,500, you'll need to do 500 hours of service. But we have the project here. And so a lot of people will do a spreadsheet and count all the service that you do in your community. It has to be something that you can see as you drive through your community. So it can't be, I brought my neighbor a meal, that won't count because I can't see it when I drive through Franklin. But we usually don't have a problem because we use the My Hometown service to count towards our grant. So we usually are pretty good.
Which, by the way, this Saturday from 8 to 11 is the Dixon My Hometown service at the River Trail. So hopefully we're counting those hours, but also it makes it split a little bit with the here.
Which is fine, depending on what people can do.
She's probably first.
I was just gonna say, if we're gonna do David, right?
Yep.
What David suggested, I'm on board. I would love to see, I think I'm trying to envision the location and what that's gonna mean space wise, but just kind of a mock-up with a few different places of where it might possibly be and what that would mean for the space. I think would be really helpful for envisioning where that would go.
It might be helpful when we go to the classic problems.
Right. Well, yeah, that's usually as one that has done a few of these, that's usually the process, right? Parks will determine where those need to go.
But just for us to have a sense of if he wants it there and we're voting on it, like what would it look like in the park and where would it, just some suggestions. Obviously, we don't get to decide that.
Right,
That's to decide,
But I was going to also say, as someone that's done a few of these, the earlier you get started on it, the better off you are. Because the process can be very lengthy.
Yeah, the application, the completed application is due the end of March. It sometimes takes you 3 months or so to do an application because you're doing a lot of back and forth with Parks.
Well, how long did it take him to do this over here? I mean, he was here for meeting after meeting.
Right, yeah, because he had to get permission from UDOT and the property owner. And that took a while. In fact, that one, we did a little extension on it because it took so long to get the permissions.
The earlier you get up and running, the better off.
I can start filling in forms if I get mandate from the spirit. In full disclosure, I don't actually live in this neighborhood, but I live in the city and I think I get as much benefit out of it as everything.
you're welcome to move here. We would welcome you.
All right, well, let's keep on moving. I look at that picture, I'm thinking, I'm gonna have my kids go and collect different colors of rocks so I can teach them checkers and spend half an hour getting the rocks before they start.
Just, this picture is actually from a website. It would be helpful, we'll see the website so you can see the details. I think it's like 6 to 8 week lead time to get it ready for shipment, that kind of thing. So if someone has an email address, I can send it.
Talk to Rachel and we can include it in the application.
Okay.
All right. Moving back to the election of a neighborhood 5 district secretary. Rachel, can you tell us the requirements, please?
Okay, yeah, so the secretary needs to be a board member. So right now, I mean, we have Daniel Friend is already our vice chair. Laura Levitt is already a vice chair. Soraya Hillam, who's not here today, is the chair. So we have Jason Ream, if he's willing to run. Is that a hard no?
Yeah, I'm not.
Leo usually attends by Zoom, so that might be too hard for him to do, being the secretary. He can make a comment in the Q&A. So we kind of have David Harding, if he's willing.
Secretary.
Yeah, it's really just for one meeting. It's for the November meeting to be the secretary.
I'd be happy to serve that.
All right, that sounded like a vote by acclamation to me. Are there any opposed? Oh, seeing none, congratulations. All right, now, we promised public comment time. Now's the time for public comment, complaints, concerns, anything you want. Yes.
Hello, I'm Julie McLaughlin. I live in the Joaquin neighborhood. And I just wanted to put in a request to Vern. I appreciate so many things he's doing. I live right by Memorial Park and we have many cars that come speeding down 800 East, which cuts right through the park. And I would love to request a traffic study done on 800 East, especially the southbound traffic, to see what we can do to increase safety for getting cars to slow down to go through.
Okay, I'm sorry, what was the street again? You want this?
800 East, between Center Street and 200 North, 150 North. No, 150 North is where the park ends, but they go fast by my house too.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
Okay. All right. Just really quick, wanted to recognize our city council members who are here. Becky Bogdan, Patrice McKay, I heard Travis is online. I saw Rachel working here a few minutes ago. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. Who else wants to make a public comment? Please, come up and tell us your name and what you want to do.
Here are the reasons why. Want to say that there's squirrels. And they're great for shade and they make fresh air and they last a long time. So also have but they're also native, so a lot of bugs and caterpillars and stuff for the and then we can also put bird feeders and that
Do you know where you can put them in that park?
not yet, but we've been thinking.
Now they can shade the playground equipment.
That's an awesome idea, and can we make them dedicated to Kurt Peterson?
Nice. Just like a little plaque.
Like a little plaque, because he was the neighborhood chair responsible for the park.
Yeah,
Do we want to, is that something we want to do with matching grant funds, or is that something,
Oh, yeah,
probably.
yeah.
that's something we could do, I suppose?
I would
Becky?
suggest you talk to Chaz Aziz first and see, because sometimes even Hannah, sometimes they have trees that they use. So before you actually invest your money there, have a conversation with Hannah Sazzle and Chaz Aziz.
I just wanna say that the playground equipment is legit too hot to play on in the
Yeah.
summertime. It's like.
Yeah.
Yeah, the huge living.
I plan for next
I
year.
do wonder with trees though, I wonder if trees are like, I know it takes longer for them to like grow tall enough to shade the equipment, but they seem a little bit more accessible.
Well, there's no reason you can't do both.
Yeah.
Sure, agreed.
So,
Yeah.
sounds wonderful. Let's, if you can, Laura, can you work on seeing about talking with Chaz and them and then come back around?
Sure.
Let us know about that, because if we want to do a matching grant, we can. But let's try those other things that Becky said first and see if we don't have to do that.
Okay, great.
Wonderful.
We might be able to get donations for the plaque.
That's a great idea.
That is a great idea.
Yeah.
That's a great
And
idea.
that'd probably be parks if it's in a park. So Chaz would probably have to talk to the parks director.
Right.
And, but Chaz is the one that would know what trees would be best to be planted and how fast they'd have to grow and if they're on the city approved list. And then when they would plant them and how it happens, and they would probably ask you all to come and volunteer to plant trees.
Not a
We've done it.
We would do
many
it.
times.
And you will count as volunteer hours for the next year.
That's
round.
Yes, it would.
I just want to say, Mabel, that was amazing, wonderful job.
Any other public comments to be made at this point on any subject? Yes, go ahead. Come up and tell us your name.
Well, this just sparked an idea, because we also have Franklin Park down on Fifth South. It also lacks a lot of shade. It's like just blazing and stuff. Trees there, not on the soccer fields, but around there could be awesome.
And Chaz. Anything culture on one. And Hannah Sazel is our, what is she, sustainability coordinator?
Sustainability coordinator.
They're always looking for places to plant trees, so
Yes.
reach out and see what they think is best.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, this is almost a follow-up from, I don't know, maybe 2 years ago when I was at my first neighborhood district meeting. It was brought up all of these kind of high-rise apartment buildings that were building over by the train station. Lovely. And then it was brought up that it was okay, that it was gonna be super, super dense and no green space because the city could just have green space. And then I said, does the city own land in downtown? Because I'm not aware of a park that the city has. And they were like, no, but they could or something. And then that was kind of the end of it. And I guess I'm just wondering if, like, what it would look like to move forward. See if we can have a green space that exists in the downtown neighborhood as we're building these super dense apartment buildings and people are gonna have dogs and this is the term I have coined, you are allowed to use it. But I use the term child desert and I really don't want that neighborhood to turn into a child desert where no family can have a child there because there's nowhere that there's a playground. There's nowhere a child can play outside unless you own a house. You can't enjoy outside life. So I'm just wondering what that would look like for us too.
What is District 5's policy on pocket parks? Like, is there a?
The district does not have a particular policy. That's something you're gonna talk to Provo's Parks Department about. I can just tell you, I actually had an idea for a little pocket park that I brought up to the Parks Department and they were very attentive. They went forward and asked the current property owners about that. Unfortunately, the essential property owner in that particular idea would not sell. And so that particular idea could not go forward, but the Parks Department has been very responsive to me and has certainly been willing to listen and entertain ideas and not just listen, but also go and do something about it. So it'll depend on what you want to do. If you want to get a proposal, set an appointment, say, this is what I want to do, this is where it should go, this is what I think would be awesome, they'll hear you out. I know because I've done it.
Mr. Peterson did that for Joaquin Park. Okay. So I can connect, he's not alive anymore, but I connect you with other people.
Okay.
Question related to that.
Yes.
What is the plan for the old city building lot?
Yes.
Do we know? Is it up in the air?
Oh, we're done. Okay.
You don't leave it in the notes, you're.
I haven't seen anything come through planning.
I'm not sure what we can say, so there's nothing else, but I don't know.
Okay.
So I'm gonna keep my mouth shut right now.
Sounds good. Green space, same.
Alright, anything else for public comment? Yes, please come up and tell us your name, make your comment. Position of city.
Hi, my name's Nadia Kate. I used to live over next door to you. Anyway, let me regroup here. I'm so grateful for all of you and everything that you do. I know that showing up and supporting the community is a lot of work and takes so much. I live in front of Memorial Park, and while I know the bathroom situation has been a crucial item here. We, the neighbors surrounding the park, long-term residents, permanent residents of the community, are super grateful that there's been a plug with regards to putting a bathroom on our return. We were looking at some of the proposals and they were considering putting the bathroom directly in front of our homes. And we just didn't feel like our input had been taken into account. We would really like to come to the meetings. We have several people here today. A lot of our neighbors are tuned in virtually. And I just want to introduce myself, and I know that some of my other neighbors are here. And hopefully we can get to know you all better. We're in the same neighborhood and it's exciting to be here with you. I did want to mention that we met with Doug from Parks and Rec. And one of the things that I would like to bring up with you is something that kind of unfolded as we were discussing Memorial Park. And we love what Memorial Park represents. And I've only been there for 15 years, but we have neighbors who've been there their entire lives. And over the last 15 years, I've noticed a lot of our trees fallen. They've just fallen down. And the city has done a great job planting new ones. But we've wondered about the possibility of leaning into what Memorial Park could represent for our community, leaning into it being a memorial park for not only fallen veterans, but also community members, children who've been victims of pedestrian accidents, and you know, like Kirk, who was also a beloved member of our community. With that being said, I would love to, if you are interested in the possibility of exploring a long-term strategic plan for Memorial Park to become this possible arboretum and just a gem, you know, it's already a gem to us, but a gem in our community. Let's get together, let's come up with some thoughts and get your input so that we can collectively go to Parks and Rec and the city development and share our, you know, vision for that space. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to make a comment? Is there anyone on Zoom? Okay. Well, in that case, before we adjourn, I'd just like to remind you that our next neighborhood district meeting is Wednesday, November 20th at 6 p.m. right here or on Zoom. We hope to see you all there. Thank you for coming and participating in.
One more thing,
One last thing, yes.
Because our next meeting is in November and that'll kind of be like the applications for the board will be happening between now and then. Could, Rachel, could you talk about that process and what it means to be on the board and what the responsibilities are and all of that?
Definitely. So I have a bunch of flyers here on this table back here about applying. So we have, we want to have 2 representatives from each neighborhood. So half of our board, unless they want to reapply, are going to be off, and then half are still going to stay on. But we're looking for other people to apply to be on the board. You'll be representing your neighborhood, doing exactly what you're doing here, talking to your neighbors, seeing what their concerns are, what they want to see done in their neighborhood, coming to these meetings, talking as each other as a board, deciding what gets put on the agenda. Like tonight with the crosswalk, that came from one of the board members. He said, you know what, in my neighborhood, they're very concerned about this dangerous school crossing. So he put that on the agenda. We gathered people together so we could have a conversation. It's 4 meetings a year. And then you have some optional training meetings. We have like a meeting with the mayor and the department heads. But as far as the district meetings, there's only 4 a year. It is a 4-year term, but we also understand if, you know, life happens, like, you know, when you move or something. It is a volunteer position. It is a great starting point if you really want to get involved in the city. Most of the people on our boards and commissions on the city council started in the neighborhood program. It's a Like Counselor Bogdan was a neighborhood chair, Counselor Whipple, neighborhood chairs. And it's just a great way to get involved. So if it's something you're interested in, the application process goes from now till November. You can hit the QR code to apply. It's just a very simple form. We represent your neighborhood, so you have to live in the neighborhood you're representing. And then we put your information on Open City Hall, so your neighbors can say, hey, this person would make a great neighborhood chair. Like that. That way they can get some input. The decision is made by the city council. They approve the applications. The decision is made in December. You start in January, but hopefully it doesn't take up too much of your time. Counselor Bogdan?
Question, so open city hall comments, those are open, I mean, the public can comment, but it's not open for the public to see, correct?
It can be open for the public to see, but we also have on there, it says if you can email the city council directly. If you're concerned about someone who's running for neighborhood chair, you can contact the council on that. Honestly, everyone's awesome who applies for the neighborhood program. It's been amazing. Yes.
So this is just to get on the board, and then when is it determined who's like the chair and then all of
Right, and
that?
so that's to get on the board, and then your very first meeting in 2025, which will probably be in January or February, that's when the residents vote who on the board will be the chair, 2 vice chairs and secretaries. So the residents vote for that.
And is that a 1-year determination?
That's a 1 year. So that's a 1 year, but then you're on the board for 4.
Does the board meet outside of the board?
It's on the board. Some boards just meet by email as they're deciding the agenda. Some boards actually have meetings between the district meetings. Some do it by Zoom. It just depends on what you want to do as a board on that. I try to make it super easy for you. So I set up the room, I do your Zoom, I do your social media, I do your newsletter. I try to make, because you're supposed to be paying attention to the residents. That's your main job. And then I try to do kind of do the other small stuff. So you guys don't have to worry about it. But yeah, we would love for you to take some of these if you're interested, or if you think your neighbors might be interested. Yes, Carol.
Currently on the board, what would you say the time commitment per week is or per month?
I'd have to measure it per month. You can kind of make of it what you want to, and depending on your level of outreach to your neighborhood, and what you want to do with that. So you can do a lot more than this, but minimum, I'm saying 4-ish hours, because you're coming to the meetings, you're doing the agenda planning. So it can be little, but you can do a lot more than that too, as far as what do you want to do for outreach to your community, to find out what they want to do. So it depends.
I will put in there that I was a very active neighborhood chair and a very active area rep. I put in a lot more time than that, a month or a week.
How much was?
A lot. I put in a lot. Not everybody would do what I do, but the more you put out there, like Daniel says, the more you engage with your neighborhood, the more they know who you are and you can't really, people respond when you respond, just kind of like they know. So the engagement is up to you.
Right. And so, for example, and you have a whole board to depend on. You might have some people on your board that don't have a ton of time to put into it. Other people like, in District 3, we have some board members that like to hold neighborhood meetings between the board meetings. That's held in their community. They set those up themselves and have that. But other boards don't do that at all. It just kind of depends on what you want to do. It's kind of a minimum of 3 hours a quarter, and then a maximum of whatever you put into it.
think on how engaged you are and how engaged they are back, right? And how engaged you wanna be in like developments, do you want to show up at a planning commission meeting and you know, state how concerned you are, or how much you love the project? Are you gonna go to a city council?
Yeah, usually the district chair will show up to the planning commission and city council meetings when an item is pertaining to their district. But the district chair can also farm that out to other people and say, I'm not able to make it, vice chair, can you go? So any other questions? Awesome, thank you.
Nice job.
Thank you.
Awesome job.
Thank you all for coming. Have a wonderful evening.
Almost exactly, it's 7:44. Yes, adjournment.